All right, cool. Well, since you started, Eric, might as well continue. So that's a big win. You listed your home.
We did, yeah. So we're officially we'll be moving to Florida hopefully in like 3 or 4 weeks. So on the way there.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. So it sounds like you're gonna get offers anytime, huh? Any day now.
Yeah, so we've had like 4 or 5 showings. I think all 4 or 5 are gonna offer, and then we've got another like 15 going into tonight. So once this is over, we'll see how that goes.
Cincinnati, it's hot.
Yeah, our inventory is like it's absurdly low. For our population's almost 1 million, and we have 1,400 active listings. So it's not even like viable.
Yep, like here. Cool, man. Well, took a lot. Good stuff, Mr. Wade. What do you got going on?
A little bit of everything. Last week we spoke and I had 4 in the pipeline. 2 of them dropped out. I was just overbid, man. It's kind of crazy. The prices of distressed properties, what they're going for. Still got 2 that I'm fighting for, so we'll see. Hopefully another, postcard will bring another 1 or 2 in, but still swinging the bat, that's for sure.
We'll see we'll see if today's meeting can help get those offers accepted.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I know. There you go. Took a lot. Good stuff. Where's everybody's cameras at? Like everyone's ghosting us here on video. We see Kevin. We'll go to Kevin.
All right, win for me. I hosted an open house for another agent this last weekend. Got a couple buyer leads. These are actually more nurture type leads. They're not ready to pull the trigger just yet, but dipping their toes in the water. But kind of the bigger win out of that is that one of the neighbors across the street from the house is a real estate investor. So he and I might be doing some deals together in the future. And he's also thinking about selling his house, like his personal residence. So who knows? I might get a listing of it.
Nice.
And he took me for a ride in his Lamborghini, so that was sweet.
Look at that! So you built trust that quick? He threw you in the Lamborghini?
Apparently, he didn't let me drive it. I just got to ride shotgun. But oh man, that thing rips.
Amazing, dude. Yeah, keep me posted if you need help.
Yep, will do.
Awesome, man. Too glad. Cool. Anybody else wants to share? I don't know if you can speak or not, but if you can unmute yourself, share a win, personal or business, before we get started. Lena, Rachel, Valley, Eric, Chris.
Hi, it's Lily. I am driving, but I can share. Can you hear me all okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So so I have a duplex for one of my investors that's closing. Actually, it was supposed to close today. It'll close tomorrow because they had to overnight documents that are arriving tomorrow. So that's sweet. And they beat out another very competitive offer just because of the way I was able to frame it for the sellers, of letting them know that these people were planning to keep their current tenant in place, even though they had under market rent. The other half of the duplex is vacant, so they can put somebody in there and they'll work with the current tenant to get it up to market rate over time. So that was a win. And then last week closed on for one of my other investors, their fix and flip. So now we're in the market looking for the next one for them. So that's awesome. Been in a couple of weeks back to back.
Nice, good stuff. So you got a traditional sale and an investor buyer closing. Is that what I heard? You broke up there at the end. Well, we lost.
Correct.
Oh, nice.
But both are investors. Yeah, so that it was a fix and flip that they did, and so and then this week I was representing the buyer, buying a duplex, and now they're looking at a 2 4plexes here locally that we're running the numbers on, so maybe we can get them into those too, which would be awesome.
That's awesome.
Wow. Come on, Ali. All right. Tukla. Good stuff. Well, my win is we have a newborn in the home, and everybody's sleeping. All my ladies, my wife, my 2-year-old, and the newborn is 5 days old or young. She's also sleeping. So that's my big win. It was a beautiful weekend. I actually got to catch my girl. If you guys know what I mean, we don't need to get into details, but it was amazing to be the first person to touch the baby girl as she was born. So it was a incredible experience. So, and that's my big win. So took a lot. Good stuff. All right. Well, Eric, introduce the topic, and then maybe before you do, actually, as you're introducing the topic, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Facebook group link in the chat, because not everybody here knows we even have a Facebook group, because we sometimes send the Zoom link directly to certain agents and investors. So I'm going to put that in the chat. If you are not part of our Facebook group, that's where I'm going to put all the recordings of these trainings / masterminds, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, but other than that, I'm gonna, Eric, introduce the topic, and let's go.
Awesome. So this is one of my favorite topics. We're going to be talking about how to get your investor offers accepted, whether they're low balls or not. This is something that's going to be huge for both agents and investors. It's not always going to be cash related. I think a lot of times investors just assume that the only way to get an offer accepted is to beat everybody out in terms of the offer amount. But we've definitely had, like, at least in our market, where we've been able to beat out offers because we're the cleanest offer, or we've built up rapport. So we're going to be going into it. We're going to start with on-market offers. So houses that are on the market listed by agents. We'll work our way to off-market. Then we'll talk about some best practices that we can do with these offers, and then stuff to avoid doing. So, to start with on market, and I do this with both my retail clients and investor clients, before I even go show the property, I always call the agent to get as much information as I can and to also build rapport. So when I'm calling the agent, I'm asking, what are the seller's motivations? What are they looking for? Do they have offers? What's going on? And I can typically get a lot of information from that, especially when the market's this hot. If I call an agent and I know I'm going to be lowballing on a property, or if it's going to come in below the ask, and they say, hey, we've got 25 offers, I know to probably tell my investor, we might not get this one. It might be best just to hold off. So like building the rapport with the agent beforehand. I also use humor a lot. So anytime I call the agent, I joke around 24/7. Most of them love it. Some people hate me for it. And then I know to kind of just stop and be like, okay, you'll get our offer. But most people will get laughing. And because of that, they'll end up going with our offers. Finding out seller's motivation, that's going to be the most important thing. That's the first question I start with. What's the seller's motivation? 95% of the time, the answer you're going to get is cash, like price, and just cleanest offer. And then you can kind of expand into that. Okay, what does the cleanest offer look like for your seller? What in terms of terms are they looking for? Do they need post occupancy? Do they want to avoid inspections? If you're purchasing cash, there's no appraisal, so you need to clarify that as well. You're just trying to figure out what is going to make that seller say, okay, we've got 10 offers. This offer stands out over everybody else.
One thing, maybe I'll jump in, because some of you know already, but when I ran the flipping company for 7 years and built out an acquisitions team, these were interns, college interns. They had no idea. They had no previous experience of real estate, right? So, and Kevin, actually, he knows who they are, because he was doing our accounting for our company back then, for both of our companies. And he knows those young guys. But my goal was to give them a simple script, always, right? Not to over complicate it, to be honest. And one of the best questions we like to ask the agents, once you do all the things that Eric mentioned, like just building rapport, maybe throwing a joke here and there, and understanding the motivation, is asking, outside of price, what would be the best offer terms? What would best offer terms look like to your client, right? Which again goes back to kind of what Eric mentioned, like, don't always assume that price is the biggest motivator, but at the same time, let's take that off the table when you're asking that question, right? And don't assume that agents are going to just tell you without you asking, like, oh yeah, they're going to want, quick quick closing. They're gonna want, you know, 2-week rent back afterwards. They're, you know, they need help with moving. They're gonna leave everything behind. Like, they might not say that, right? Without you actually imposing those questions and even giving examples, right? After that giving it like a follow-up question to that question in terms of like, outside of price, what would the best terms look like? For example, do they need to stay in a home about maybe a week or two after closing? Would that help? Things like that. Can you help me understand things like that, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, right? Like, give an actual example, let the agent think, because they might be so busy with everything happening, you know, with other business, or maybe this transaction just getting so much attention. They might not be able to think of that on the spot without you actually probing those specific questions and giving them examples. So continue, Eric.
Yeah, no, that's definitely huge. I would say even on the retail side, the amount of times that we actually accept the highest offer is probably only 50% of the time. If there's another offer that's close to it, but better terms, we'll typically almost all the time go with that. The other thing, so like when we're looking at on-market properties, typically with most of my investors, we're using hard money. So everybody always says like, you know, that's a loan. It's going to end up being a loan. It's got to be. So we work it out with our hard money lenders that it's cash. There's no inspections. There's no nothing. So when we're doing hard money, it's cash. We can close it as soon as we get clean title, which can be 5 days. And we work this out with our hard money lender. I run the comps beforehand, get them sent to them, let them know what the estimate rehab scope of work is going to be. They're comfortable with it. So when I'm talking to the agent, I'm saying it's cash. We can literally close this as soon as we have clean title. So that makes a huge difference as well. A lot of people, especially in like the Cincinnati area, if they're using hard money, they'll write in hard money. And then that causes some concerns because even though it's not conventional financing, you're still having to get that approved for the hard money lender. I don't know if you guys experience the same thing.
Yeah, so I think, I think a lot of investors or agents working with investors, right? If you're one of those, like Vali is, sometimes agents kind of can't get over that. Like, wait, but it's not really cash. But the truth is, what Eric said is 100% right. It is cash because it has no contingencies, right? Yeah, they're going to do their inspection, right? But the reality is you're not putting an appraisal contingency into your contract, right?
Yeah.
And it is, and they're not ever lending 100% of the purchase price anyway. So as long as you do your numbers right, there's really no reason why the hard money lender is going to kick back that loan for you, right? So I would stay strong and say, look, this is cash. My investor does multiple transactions at once. Sometimes he uses hard money, sometimes he uses private money, but ultimately they don't use their own cash, right? Because they need to keep turning more properties, right? If they're an actual serious investor like we are, there's no way anyone is actually using their own cash, right? They're always borrowing money from someone. You know, in this case, we're choosing to go with this hard money lender and then redirect the conversation to something else, right? So just don't let that be an objection that, you know, you get caught with and you're like, you don't know how to answer. I would just be short, be to the point. It is cash. There's no appraisal contingency, and redirect the conversation to the next point and just reassure them like, look, we're closing. Like my client is closing, or if you're the investor, like I'm closing, like, don't worry about it. It's cash, right? That's why I wrote cash. So anyway, I don't get too hung up on that, right? And I agree. I would always put cash in there, even though if it's hard money, because the reality is it is cash, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. The one thing that I've done too to win deals is like I've waived my commission. If I'm on the buyer side and I work with an investor I do a ton of transactions for, you can either waive your commission in total. So I've like called a couple agents. Where's our offer in line with all these other ones? Because we're competing with other cash offers. You're right there. You need to come up like 5,000. I'm like, well, that's just, 5,000 is probably not going to cut it for my seller. Go ahead and waive my commission. It brings the net up to 3%. And if it's a $300,000 house, it's $9,000. And that we've gotten deals off of that. I've also done where I've told the listing agent, and this shouldn't make a difference, but it always does. I told the listing agent, you can have my commission. And then when the listing agent goes back to Mr. Seller, they go, cool, I'm double ending this. This is the offer you want to go with. Oh, there's all these other, yeah, but I've worked with them before. They know how to get it done. Always works that way. Never should, but we'll offer that up to the listing agent. And a lot of times it does help.
So, Eric, I would add, So that's actually, that's honestly, when I work with local investors here, that's actually what I teach them, because, I personally don't really represent a lot of investors on the purchase side myself, right? So because of that, because I also know that that will entail a lot of work, right? To do it correctly, right? And I don't have the time. So what I actually recommend right out of the gate to my investor clients, say, look, you're better off going through the listing agents. Your chances are much higher of getting this property by going directly through the listing agent than me getting in the middle, right? So that's how I handle my investors. And I say, look, if they don't mention the relist on the back end, don't bring it up, right? Because they already could be very excited because you're already offering for them to represent you, right? So now the listing agent is representing both sides, right? And if you have your license, like most of you on here potentially have, you then could list it yourself, or maybe you have a relationship with a really good realtor that will list it at some flat fee, right? So you can work those numbers in and make your offer a lot more attractive, right, to the seller. So I really wouldn't bring that up. But the reality is, if you're in a state where double representation or dual representation is allowed, guaranteed the chances will go up if you bring that up to them and say, by the way, I am an investor, or I am licensed investor. Would you be interested in representing me? Is that something you're comfortable doing? And if you are an investor and licensed and you say that, I can guarantee you that listing agent is going to have mad props for you and be like, wow, wait, they're an agent and they're waiving they don't even want to represent themselves. That's pretty cool, right? So you'll gain respect. And that doesn't mean that right away they're going to say yes, right? They might say, look, Randy, I appreciate it. However, I can't represent you because it just be a conflict of interest. It's an estate sale. It's going in front of a judge or whatever, or this is a bank-owned property. So a few times that I would get pushback is if it's a bank-owned property, some banks will not allow dual agency, and a lot of like estate sales, right? The listing agents just don't want to. So my follow-up to that would be, great, well, no problem. So do you run a team, by the way, Mr. Agent? And then if the agent says, yeah, so is there someone on your team that might represent me? And why, Eric, you will obviously know, right? You have a team. Why would that excite you if you were that listing agent and I asked you that question?
Yeah, you get the split from your teammate, and then it's not necessarily considered dual agency. In Ohio, it's close, but you can kind of get away with that.
Yeah, so I would ask the secondary question, like, hey, is there anyone on your team that might maybe want to represent me, right? Because again, I know that there's a benefit. If they're on their team, that agent, that team lead is getting an override of some kind, right? On that team member. And then if they say no to that, so if I get 2 no's, then I'm like, okay, no problem. So like I mentioned, I am licensed, so I'm just going to submit my offer and self-represent myself. And I might, would maybe waiving my commission, is that something that, maybe would make your seller net more money? Would that interest them? Probably, right? And I want to make sure they understand where my heart is, right? And my heart is in getting the deal, not the commission.
Yep.
That's really what I want the listing agent to hear, right? Now, that doesn't mean you have to do this, right? I choose to teach my investors to do that because I know that their chances go up dramatically and it's less work for me. And what I'm after is to help them on the back end. When they actually get this thing locked up, then I review the comps, I review everything for them. I go to the property with my team member. We'll give ideas on design, on what walls to knock out. Like that's where I shine and where I want to help them. And then once they close on it, and then we will end up listing the property at our exclusive listing program that we have for investors. So that's and just an understood agreement or affiliation that we have with our investors. So they don't really call me like, Randy, I found this flip on MLS. Can you submit an offer? They just don't do that. Only because I set the expectations that way. But there's agents like Eric, there's agents like Vali, they would love to do that. And you should, but if you start feeling pushback, right, then be flexible and waive the commission or let the listing agent. And so if I start feeling pushback and I want to represent the investor, I will literally ask the agent, like, look, it sounds like you have a ton of offers. I know that, it's going to be tough to probably get my client to win over. I'm just wondering, would it help if maybe I remove myself and let you handle my client, right? I wouldn't necessarily start that from the beginning if I want to make the commission on the purchase side, right? but you can
And-
kind of feel it, right, Eric? You'll know when it's the right time.
I was gonna say, and like, so if I have like just a regular retail listing and a buyer comes to an open house and they want the property, if I talk to my seller and I go, hey, are you okay with me disclosing to the client where they need to be to get the offer? 90% of the time my seller's like, yeah, that's fine, because then they're beating out everybody else's offer. So if you give that investor client to the listing agent and you tell the listing agent, hey, you'll be able to represent it, the listing agent could go to the investor and say, hey, our highest offer is 290 cash, you need to beat it. And they want to dual end it or double end it. So what they're going to go back is ask their seller, do I have the ability to disclose where we're at? Go to the investor and say, okay, let's get 295 and it's yours. And they lock it up.
Because what happens a lot, right? If an agent has a great listing agent has a great relationship with the seller is going to ask them. There's a high chance the seller's going to say, look, Randy, I don't know, like, which offer should I go with? We have 10 offers and they're all very close. What do you think? Like, that's a very common question that a seller is going to ask their listing agent on a distressed sale, right? And guess what? If the listing agent is also representing me, the investor, on this particular flip, and they actually got to know me because now they're representing me and I was a professional from the beginning of my conversation, right? They actually can say, like, look, this investor right here, like, I haven't closed deals with them yet, but they've been very professional. They've done everything amazing. Like, they've been so cooperative. They gave you all the terms you wanted, right? If they're representing me, they can kind of massage that conversation a little bit. I wouldn't say sway, right? I don't think that's the right word, because it's not.
No.
It's more about they're able to say more about me because they got to know me now, because they're representing me. Versus if I'm just another offer being represented by another agent, they don't really know me. They're not even talking to the investor. They're talking to my agent that's in the middle, right? And again, not that it's wrong, but I'm just letting you know the reality of what happens behind the scene between a listing agent and the seller, right?
Yeah.
They will ask them, what do you think, agent? Please help me. I'm overwhelmed.
And I know you do this too, Randy, for your sellers, but we take notes with communication with the agents that we're working with during the process. So, that's another thing that helps you stand out. If you're sending over an offer and it's filled out just incorrectly, or there's a bunch of mistakes on it, or the communication subpar, or you're sending me like a dot loop link where I've got to click in and save everything, I'm telling my sellers, like, and we just recently had this happen where we're like, and we also look up how many transactions they've done in the past and everything like that. But we go, look, this agent, yeah, their offer is killer, but also their communication sucks. Their contract is filled out incorrect. They have no regard to the details. So guess what? When we get in the middle of this process and everything's going sideways, that's the kind of guy we're going to have to rely on, guy or girl, that's going to have to get their clients back on track. Is it going to happen? So,
Spot on. So true.
Yeah. The other thing that we try to do, so most of my investors, we do not do inspections. And part of that is we'll bring a contractor with us to the showing. Or if they rely on their own scope of work or on my scope of work, we'll walk the property and bake in a contingency. That is huge because even retail buyers right now are waiving inspections. So if you're going in and you're doing either a really long inspection period or an inspection period at all, that's really not great for the seller. And then the seller is going to think, okay, this offer is good. It's cash, but it's got inspections. Are they going to come back and say, hey, we need this, this, and this because we didn't find this? So that's another great way to make your offer stand out. We will typically, if there's concern, the only thing we inspect is septic, just because that can be anywhere from a $500 repair to a $50,000 repair. And then if we have any concerns, we'll walk our contractor through and just say, hey, throw us a quick number, walk it with us, total the math in your head and let me know where we're at.
Yeah, what I will add to that is, so obviously it will depend on many things too, though. So for example, like in New Jersey, when I used to flip homes, we had to deal with underground oil tanks. Dude, if you got caught with one of those, good luck, right? It's like the government agency of environmental protection gets involved, you're stuck for months. Anyway, it's a nightmare. So what I would learn if I was wherever you are, understand what are those huge red flags that can completely derail your deal, right? And in California, it's cracked slabs, it's foundation. That's the big one, period. That's like the big one. And another one is sewer lines. However, for certain things like sewer lines, I would say we kind of have a cutoff, like honestly, like 2000 and newer, I would probably don't worry about doing a sewer line scope, right? So like have some type of a cutoff year to determine what you need to do on this property before you feel comfortable pulling the trigger. Like in New Jersey, I would absolutely, let's say, find out when did they stop putting in oil tanks in New Jersey? And then once I know that year, well, then anything that I look at newer, I don't have to do an oil tank sweep, right?
Yeah.
Like just so get smart. Don't just have a cookie cutter terms like, oh yeah, like inspection contingency on all properties, because it can hurt you. You might not get the deal. However, you got to be really careful. So understand what are those big red flags that you have to watch out for, but how can you eliminate them based on the build of the property, right?
Yes.
So sewer scopes are big ones here. Foundation, usually you should be able to tell, like in California, by walking the property and looking for cracks, right? In the corners, on the perimeter. So most of the time, you should be able to actually be able to just look at it with your naked eye and tell, or if you're walking, you can tell if the floor doesn't feel even, right? So anyway, so like to our investors, what I usually will say, like, look, if you can pull everything off in like 3 days, like that would be amazing. Like a 3-day inspection, right? If you can keep it under 7, that's good. Not great, but it's okay, right? So it's like kind of like a 7-day inspection, 10-day closing, right? Can you pull that off, Mr. Investor? Then do that, right? At the worst, right? Because you should be able to get everybody you need within the 7-day period. And worst case scenario, if you need an extension a day or two, it's much easier to ask for an extension once you're under contract than before contract, okay? So if you have to, lock it up with a 3-day inspection, being very optimistic that you're going to get everybody you need to go do their part of inspecting. And then if you need an extra day, you'll probably get it because now you're under contract. And if you submitted your deposit right away, within 24 hours or even less to show how serious you are, they're probably not just going to be like, no. You said 3 days and you didn't do it, so we're going to cancel. Like, probably not going to happen. So work to your advantage in a way where like, don't stress too much. Like, oh my God, but I'm not going to have enough days. It's okay. Like ask for an extra day later, right? Or 2. And another thing I would ask if I'm talking to the agent and I'm building rapport, right? Regardless, if I'm the agent representing the investor, if the agent is going to be representing me as the investor, whatever, it doesn't matter. I always would like to know, like, hey, would it help if we submitted an offer with no contingencies at all? And of course, the answer is going to be yes, right? But I'm digging for information, right? What I want to know is like, look, the other offers, are any of them non-contingent? And the truth is, most investors do not submit non-contingent offers. That's not as normal as you might imagine. Right? For the reasons I'm telling you, especially if they're newer investors, so the agent might have 15 offers and maybe, 12 of them are from newer investors who are nervous and scared, and they're going to have an inspection contingency. And then you might have maybe 2 or 3 with no inspection contingency. Well, guess what? Now you've put yourself in that 1%, right? Now you're in the top tier of what they're going to look at because you can. So it's like, how do you put yourself there? Well, common question would be, great, Mr. Agent, one thing I noticed is that this house was built in 1970. Would I be able to do what I need to do as far as inspections before I send you my contract? Can I get my people in? Will your seller allow me to maybe even, like, if I've done this, like literally do a sewer scope before I even submit a contract? Why would I do that? Well, because I want to be in the top offers that they look at, right? And be able to position myself to win. So I know it's like $200, $250 to do a sewer inspection. If the seller allows me and we get an authority to do it, or if I have a foundation issue and I'll get my foundation guy to walk through the property before I even submit the contract, but now I know what that number is. Well, now I can submit an offer with no contingencies, but I have to ask the agent, like, look, can you give me 2 days? How many days do you think you can give me so I can do all my research right now so I can submit an offer with no contingency, just like your seller would want? And a lot of agents will say, like, look, we're not going to review offers for 3 days. So you have 3 days. If you submit the offer by, Friday at 5 p.m., you'll be good. Perfect. Boom. Then I'm going to go to it, right? So that's how we were able to position our offers to win with no inspection contingency, but also with very like no risk, because we did all the things we needed to do that were potentially red flags that can completely destroy me if I were to buy that property, right? With that said, I think, okay, and then the last one on the market would be deposit. Deposit, of course, your cash, but if you can, I know this is, you know, a tough one for a lot of investors if they're doing multiple deals, to put up large deposits because it's liquid cash that they have to have available, right? But man, there's nothing better that just tells the seller like, man, these guys are serious, than like a large deposit. And I'm talking about like, if you could pull it off, like in California, if you could put down like 20, 30 grand as a deposit, like, dude, like that will speak volume. Like, I know, like, you know, working with a lot of traditional sellers or selling investor flips right now, when I get offers and I see a large deposit, I always automatically like, whoa, that's impressive. That's good. Like that tells me that this buyer is not afraid. And the truth is, they're not going to lose it. If they follow the contingency periods, they're not losing that deposit, right? So just something to think about. I know it's not easy, right? When you're starting out as an investor, or if you're an agent working with investors that maybe don't have that much cash liquid, because it can add up, right? I mean, if you're putting out 5, 10 offers and you get, you know, 3 accepted or whatever, and you're putting 20,000 deposit, that's 40 grand that is going to sit there. But the truth is, if you think about it, how long is it going to sit there for? You're going to know if you have inspection contingency of 3 days, you'll know in 3 days if you're moving forward or not. So it's really not that long, right? But it really makes a statement. I think more than anything, it just makes a statement. Period. I don't know if you want to add anything to that as an exclamation point, Eric, but
No, yeah, we always do. So typically like retail buyers, I'll do 500 earnest money. Obviously our prices are lower. On the investment side, we typically do 5 grand. So just tells you the huge difference there. Because we've already gone through and done our due diligence. So we feel confident with the offer. We're putting it out there and we're closing it. We've never been under contract and not closed on anything. So that's another thing. Like we've built reputation. So when agents have a property that needs to sell, they'll just call us and say, hey, this needs to go. We need to close in 2 weeks. Can you submit an offer? So switching to off market. So there's 2 things I want to hit. So we're running a little bit lower on time.
Okay. One thing I'll say is, because this will apply to on market and off, what we put for closing date often, like when I say we, it's our sister company, an investment company, they still buy properties. So I know what they do still, because I created the whole process, is we'll put the closing days, we'll usually put as low as 3 days to as much as 90 days. And we'll literally say 3 to 90 days, or maybe 7 to 90 days, seller's choice.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know if I would do 90 days today because the market is just kind of all over the place. So I probably would cap the number at like 30 days, because I don't think I want to have my offer be valid, you know, past a month, because the market might shift and I might want to lower my offer then. But that's something to consider. Instead of putting a actual number of 7 days or less, maybe just put 7 to 30 days seller's choice.
Yep.
You're allowed to do that. Again, shows you professionalism, shows you flexibility. Let the seller decide. That puts seller in control, which is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
2 things off market, so we'll just hit them really quickly. One is going to be when you're going to an off market appointment, you're still building the same rapport. It's still very similar to on market, just instead of talking to an agent, you're talking to the seller. One of the key things that we always tell our off market appointments or off market sellers is, look, like the reason you're going with us is there's no hassle, there's no negotiations, there's no realtor fees, there's no getting out of the house for showings, getting it ready, taking photos. It's here's your offer. Do you like it or not? Whereas if you're getting a listing done, you know, we've got to go through and find the price, discuss the realtor fees, get the pictures taken, get them set up. They have to leave the house, kind of what I'm doing today, where you're in and out of your own house. So if it's something that it needs work, and then you can always run, what we typically do is we'll say, okay, look, if you sell to us cash, we give you, let's say 130 cash. But if you go on market, you might make with the comps, let's say 140. So by the time you're getting rid of the realtor cost in there, it's already more expensive, if not about the same as the 130. So now you're just adding in extra hassle, you're adding in extra contingencies with another buyer, whereas we can come in and just offer a clean, quick closing. And we always, we'll always do like a price comparison, like we'll write it down for them. So we'll say, these are your options, and we'll say, these are your net takeaway. So we get the payoff beforehand.
Yep. Yeah, we do that too. So what I like to do is like, we teach this, right? A lot of times, like if you're an agent working with investors, like it would be awesome if you can go to the appointment that's an off-market lead together. Like I've done this many times. So if you're that agent, that's like the go-to agent for your investor client, imagine going to a seller appointment together, right? Of course, wanting the investor to get their offer accepted. However, we know 1 out of 10 in my work, the other 9 could potentially be listing opportunities for you, the agent, right? So
Yeah.
why not go together potentially, listen to what the seller is telling you, and then present net sheets, like Eric is saying. And in most cases, the retail side will net the seller more money, but you'll be surprised that it's really not that much more, right? And I think the key phrase or key word you want to use there, that is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right? When you go with a listing, if I list your home, like imagine I'm the realtor and Eric is the investor and we're talking to the seller together, we're at the same appointment. I'm going to be very honest. Like, look, we can put it on a market for, 150. You have an offer here from Eric for 130. And I know, like, if he tells you he's buying it at 130, he's buying it, right? It's guaranteed with Eric and his company. I was like, if we were to go to open market, which is an option you can consider, I'll probably list it at 150 based on these comparables here that you can see of as-is sales. The only thing is I can't guarantee you that we're going to get 150. We might land somewhere around 145, and then we have to subtract all the additional closing costs. So you're going to net an additional maybe, $8,000, maybe. I don't know. I can't, and there could be inspections, and then they could come back for credits, which I've had happen. So you never know how it's going to transpire once we actually even go under contract with someone, right? So there's just a lot of ifs, Mr. Seller, if we go in that direction, but I'm more than happy to do that if you think that's the best option.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you're leaving the door open for the seller to once again make the choice. People like choices and options, right? But if you present them with facts, it becomes pretty easy for them. And you'll be surprised again, where they might see like literally the net sheet from, going retail on the listing side to the investor offer. And there's a $10,000 net difference to them if they go retail, and they'll just be like, I'll just do the cash. I don't care. I want this over with. Can you close in 4 days, 5 days? Yes, I can. Great. Let's just do that. Like, boom.
Yep.
It would shock you sometimes, right? Especially when you give those options. And then there's times where they're like, all right, I want to give it a shot. So then what we do in that situation, like, look, why don't you go and list it with our agent, Randy, and then my offer is still valid, Mr. Seller. My offer is valid for 30 days because the market can change. So if things don't work out as planned, right? You never know. Like, like Randy told you, like sometimes you go on the contract with a client and with a buyer and they might back out or ask for a credit. You can always come back for me. My offer is valid for the next 30 days. So then I would use that at the end to make them feel like, okay, if this option doesn't work, then I still have a backup plan of Eric, the investor. I just wouldn't say that from the beginning, though.
That's a good idea.
So then let's go to best practices.
So we touched a lot of the best practices, and we've got 4 minutes until we do the breakout. So we'll just do the avoid doing this.
Hold on. Before we go, I have, because I'm looking at our notes, guys. If you see me like looking at my screen weird, and that's what I'm doing. So yes, we touched upon everything here, except if you have the listing agent representing you, okay, a big thing you got to master is you need to get on the same page about what is the after repair value, because now remember, they are representing you now, right? If you need to get an agreement of what will be the after repair value for this property if it was renovated. So I would ask the listing agent, it would go something like this, like, look, Mr. Agent, great, I can't wait to work with you. I'm going to go to the property and check it out and, you know, give you my offer terms, blah, 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 right? Before I do that, I would love to get your professional opinion, right? Because you are the professional and I would love to get your opinion. Once I renovate this home and make the most beautiful home in the neighborhood, what do you think that thing can sell for? I want them to know. I want to know what they're thinking. Because if they say 550 and I think it's 500, do you think we have a problem? Right? Major problem. Because now when they see my offer and it comes in at 400, but they think the ARV is 550 and they see a spread of 150, they're going to be like, what are you doing, Eric? Why are you submitting a lowball offer? Like, what the heck? But instead, if I get on the same page with them about the ARV and first solve that, so there's some misunderstanding, you guys got to maybe sometimes even go back and forth, like, great, you think it's 550? I would love, can you send me those comps, like quick comps, and I'll reconfirm, because I was more like 500, but maybe I didn't see something, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say they're wrong. I would just say, look, maybe I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I would put them on a spot and be like, can you send me those comps? Right? That would be amazing, because then I could maybe readjust my offer and offer more than I was thinking, right? And you'll be surprised how many times I would then go back and forth with that agent, and then the 550 will actually become 510, right? Well,
good.
now I'm starting from 510 and work backwards to then justify when I call back with my offer. I say, okay, so based on our conversation, I use the 510 number as the ARV. My repair number is X. My closing costs, financing costs are this. So my offer is 400. And how does that sound? Now it sounds a lot better, because I actually work them backwards and the numbers start making sense to the listing agent, right? So do not skip this step, because it can literally just bite you, right? And completely derail the whole transaction. And then the other thing I would say, and if we have to skip we'll skip it. I think, do you guys want to hear more of this, or would you want to go into breakout sessions? What's more important?
No, please keep going, Randy.
All right. We'll go.
Because a lot of this directly is what I've been through in the last 2 weeks. So I'm eager.
All right. Anybody else? Are you in favor of keep it going, even if we skip the breakout session?
Yes, in favor.
All right.
That's
I'm
fine with me,
waiting for-
whatever.
All right.
I'm
Cool.
waiting for somebody to tell us to stop talking and be like, no, we want to do breakout room. You guys talk.
Eric said yes. All right, cool. All right, we'll keep going, because I'm fired up. This is a good topic. Like
Yes.
this is all coming back to me, because we used to put out so many offers, right? We still do. It's just I'm not in the day-to-day, but it's all like fresh. So perfect. So then another thing I would say is due diligence, right? We talked about doing due diligence. I'll just finish on this. Don't be afraid for asking for credits later, right? Once you're under contract, it's okay to ask for a credit as long as it's justified. And when I mean justify, you actually have reports. So spend money. It's cost of doing business. If you have to do a sewer inspection, do it. Spend the money. If you have to do a foundation inspection, do it, right? And then submit those reports with your request for the credit. So it's actually on paper, and then they know how you came up with that number, right? And if you're like California, which I would assume all states are going to be pretty similar when it comes to disclosures, once the listing agent has those documents, they were going to have to disclose that to the next buyer if the seller decides not to take my offer, right? So the chances of them not entertaining my credit are somewhat low. I'm not saying they will just take it and be excited about it, but you'll be surprised how often we get that credit, because the listing agent, if they're professional and they know how to do business, they're going to educate their seller, especially if they're representing me, right? Yeah. They're going to say, look, Mr. Seller, I mean, we could cancel this, and I understand if we do, and we can go and find another, buyer. I just have to make sure you know this. I have to provide all this documentation to the next client, and there's a high chance that they're going to just come in at a lower number, right? So it's up to you, though. We can take this offer, with Eric, even though he's asking for, a $20,000 reduction. But we have, he does have these reports here. If not, it's okay. I have to then disclose these reports to the next buyer. We'll see what happens, right? Again, if the listing agent is motivated financially too, because he's maybe representing Eric on the same transaction, there's a high probability they're gonna, say the truth, but also keep in the back of their mind that they're gonna potentially get paid twice, and that might go away if they're gonna go back to the market. Right.
I would say too, when it comes to asking for credits, be like careful with how you do it. If it's something that you weren't expecting or it's something that you couldn't see, don't go in there and be like, well, once we went back in, that flooring that's, covered in dog urine, we decided we need a credit for it, because I have people that are blacklisted on our on disposition side and on the agency side, that if they sent me an offer for $1 million cash for a $150,000 house, I'd tell them to screw off, because they've just done it way too many times. So, reputation, that was one of the things that we were going to talk about. Reputation is huge. And if you start to be known for that person that gets people under contract and then tries to beat them down, it doesn't take very long. Like as agents, we start calling other agents and we go, listen to what I'm dealing with. This is the person that's doing it. And then it starts to spread out and you can get a bad name. So it needs to be something that's like, hey, we did the sewer scope. There was a belly in the scope. We're going to have to dig it up and fix it. It's going to be $5,000. Can we work something out? So,
and you had a good point on here that you wanted to cover, is like to send an offer summary, right? Make it, maybe touch about that, because I know that's important. Like, if I'm the listing agent listing a distressed home, like if you can summarize your offer to me, that's amazing. Don't make me open the document and look through, in California, look through like 20 pages.
Yeah,
okay?
We do offer summaries for both retail and investors, and it's huge. Agents love it. We try to come off as the most, even though we're probably not, we try to come off as the most organized professional agents in the area. So they get an entire email with an offer summary with all of the contingencies, the financing. We do the contact for the title. We do the contact for the loan officer so they can reach out to them. We do any explanations that are needed for the offer, who the pre-approval is through, what kind of financing, everything. So we literally, and then obviously if it's a investor, we do cash. We spell out the entire term of it, and it's in a nice, like, well put together package so that they can just open it, and then they can just be like, cool, this is what we've got. Go ahead and present it to the seller, and sellers typically like that too. It helps us stand out.
Okay. And it could be a package, or it could just be literally in the body of the email, right?
Yeah,
Bullet points,
yeah.
boom. Close dates, boom. Inspection contingency, boom. Like all the major milestones, deposit. Just put it all in there nicely, clean. That's all it is. You don't have to overthink it, but it goes a long way. When the busy listing agents open all those emails up and they see that, like they won't even open that PDF because they have everything they need to know.
If you do it enough, we have like a branded letterhead that it goes on. So that way it's like when people open it, even though it took us like 2 minutes to make, people always are like, that is the coolest thing ever, because it looks really nice and it took us like 30 seconds to make. And they're like, that's so like just ingenious. Okay, so we'll go quickly through go ahead.
And I'll finish on the last point there on that slide that we have as our little cheat sheet. Guys, one thing you gotta know, like the chances of you getting a property accepted for your client, if you're the agent working with an investor, or if you're the investor yourself submitting offers, the chance of your offer initially getting accepted is very, very low. Okay. And most of the properties that we bought with our property that I ran were on the follow-up. When the first offer falls out of contract, we slide in and close on it, because now the motivation is higher. The seller just wants to get this thing done with because they've been dragged through the mud, maybe with the first buyer or maybe even the second buyer. And it's the number one mistake I see investors do. They submit offers. They do all the hard work. They submit all the offers and they don't actually do any follow-up afterwards. Once they hear the words, sorry, seller chose another offer, they stop following up. That's a huge, huge mistake. And to help you with that, so number one, I would have an Excel sheet or a Google sheet and put down all the addresses of all the properties that you're offering on and stay on top of it and follow up every week and just check in with the listing agent. That's one. A trick to this to make you save time is get a plugin. There is a Boomerang plugin. There is another Chrome plugin. There's several plugins out there. Even if it costs a few bucks per month, it's so worth it. For your Gmail account, as an example, you can have a plugin where you can get notified when someone opens your email, like actually notified, like where you get an email notification, right? I can't tell you how much that helped my team, right? because they submit so many offers. Sometimes they might not have the time to follow up as they should every week. But guess what happens? The plugin notifies them when the agent opens their email 2 weeks after they submitted an offer that was rejected. And what does that usually mean? When an agent opens an email, that's a 2-week-old email on a rejected offer, most likely that means that the contract that they have is falling apart, falling out, because they're searching through their inbox for other offers that they received, right? And they came across mine and they opened it. And then I would get notified, and guess what we would do? We would call that agent within minutes and be like, hey, Lisa, how's it going? How is it going with the current contract? Like, you read my mind. Literally, we would hear those words because we would get notified and they were like, what the heck? I was just looking at your email. I'd be like, no way. What's going on? We're ready. We're ready to perform. Come on. Boom. And we slide in and we close on the property. Most of the deals we got was on the secondary or third escrow contract. So
consider too, we do this with retail and investor clients all the time right now, and backup offers. So like a backup offer, the way in Ohio, the way it works is it's an option contract for the buyer. So you put in the backup, and then when the seller falls out of contract, if it's signed, they have to go to you and ask if they want those original terms. And you as the buyer can say yes or no. So you have the ability to say, yeah, that works. Let's go ahead and start working on getting it closed, or no, it doesn't. I had a backup offer this weekend accepted because the seller accepted 2 offers. Both times before the earnest money could be deposited, both buyers backed out. So the agent calls me and we were like 25,000 less than the other 2 offers. I'm like, we're not going up on anything, but if you want it at the original, we'll take it. And he was like, that works. I talked to the seller, let's do it. So backup offers are huge because it's showing like we still have interest in the property. We are serious. And a lot of times the buyers that are out there in the market are getting cold feet or getting freaked out, or they turned on the news and heard one bad thing and freaked out, and now they're, deciding to change their mind. We see it all the time.
cool. All right, so let's finish on what to avoid. And thank you, Wade, for the comment, man. Wade had said this info is just fire. Good job.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, and we end up, it's great because we ended up touching on most of the avoid doings, like what we can and can't do. So stuff like that. The biggest thing I'd say is your reputation's huge. So don't go in there. Don't beat up on stuff. Don't, call the agent and say, why aren't you considering my offer? If it's a crazy low ball and you're like, this house is disgusting or something like that, you need to realize that's where somebody lives. That's, maybe it's a situation where they can't. We always try to come from it as like a helping hand. What can we do? Is there anything the seller needs? So avoid just kind of coming off as rash or as somebody who just doesn't care or doesn't have that going on. Lack of communication is huge. So like if you're not going to call the agent and you're just going to submit an offer into their email and you think that the agent's going to open it, has never talked to you and accept it, I can tell you right now, 0% chance. Like every listing agent, if you don't have communication beforehand, they'll never accept your offer. It doesn't matter how strong of an offer it is. If I've never had a conversation with you, it's just not going to give me a lot of confidence that you're going to get it done. Not doing due diligence beforehand. We talked about this, but if you don't do due diligence and then you get 5 or 10 days in the contract and then you're like, you know what, we had somebody go out there, we want to back out, it can look so bad on you. And like I keep repeating it, but a lot of the deals that we get in Cincinnati and the surrounding areas off of reputation. I've had like literally agents call me on some of the biggest flips that we've done spread wise, and they're like, I know you'll close it. Do you want to come out here tomorrow, write an offer? So then we go out there, and then within 5 days, we're closing on the deal.
And
so,
what I would say too is like, if you truly made a mistake, right? Because it happens, like where you just completely underestimated the construction cost, and you sent you went out there with your contractor within your 3-day period, and you estimated, let's say 80 grand, which is normal in California, maybe not in Cincinnati. And then that, becomes 100. And you can't really say and blame a sewer or foundation or, you can't really make anything up because all it was is just you miscalculating the total construction cost.
Yeah.
And honestly, just be transparent at that point, right? If you ran out of, all things to say, the way I would approach it is just be like, call the listing agent. And again, especially if the listing agent is representing me, it's not that difficult. Like, it would be still hard and it would be annoying to the listing agent, but if I'm honest with them, I think it will go a long way. And I would just say, look, Mr. Agent, like, honestly, like, I just want to let you know, like, I estimated 80,000 for construction, and it's a lot more with everything that just went up recently. It's my fault. I would just take full responsibility, right? And say, like, look, and last thing I do is ask for credits. I don't want my reputation to be on the line and be known as that guy. So I'm not going to even ask for credit, and I'm just going to back out because I completely messed up on the number. My contractor came back with a much higher number, and I wouldn't even say the number. I would literally just say, like, and again, I apologize, and I would just over and over say, I apologize, I'm sorry, but I just can't make the numbers work, at the number I submitted my offer at. So can you just please send the cancellation? And I'm so sorry, and and I know this will happen again because now I have the right numbers, because some of these things that caught me off guard. Boom. Guess what would happen in many cases, right? The listing agent would be like, well, Randy, what is your number? Like, just maybe I can make it happen for you, right? Just tell me. I know it happens and I get it. Tell me the number. And then I would then feel comfortable saying the number. But like, I would need to get the property $20,000 less. And then they're going to take a deep breath and they're going to be annoyed. And then they're going to be like, well, let me see what I could do. Right. Again, because if they're going to represent me, what are they thinking? They're thinking about getting paid and closing this deal in 4 days and getting 2 commission checks.
And if it's a lower deposit that you did, and it's something where they're like, okay, that's not gonna work for the seller. Let's say you did $1,000 for the long-term, prospect of maybe you seeing that agent again, or if they do work with investors, offer it up to the seller if you really did make a mistake on the number. You don't have a large deposit, that's not 20,000, and you can still use a contingency, but even if it's a contingency problem, and you call that agent, they're like, hey, we can't come down 20,000. I'm sorry. Just be like, I'm sorry for wasting you and the seller's time. I really do apologize. That is my bad. Take the $1,000 for the seller. Let them know I apologize. And going forward, I have these numbers straight, because this is a long-term gain. And, the agents that are in it, they're going to remember that. So again, it's reputation, because if you don't do that and you're just like, you get all hostile and then you submit another offer on one of my listings, I'm going to recognize the name, and I've got a nice list of people that, like, I'm just going to be like, nope, not considering it. Don't care. You know what I mean? Or, hey, he backed out of the last contract because he was off on his numbers. Good chance he's going to be off on his this time again. So just constantly always be there, like building that reputation and that rapport with everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. I think we hit everything we needed to hit. I know it's already top of the hour, but let's open it up for any questions or comments or anything you guys want to add as we wrap this up. Hopefully this was beneficial.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip out. There's somebody here to view my house.
All right, later, Eric. I'll
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Any comments or questions on anything we shared? I know we shared a lot.
No, I appreciate the add-on about the Google Chrome, because I was just thinking that yesterday that, I wish I had a way to track when people open my emails. So I appreciate that. The other thing I was going to say is, one of the things that I did not long ago, and I think it made a difference in the offer, is I actually offered my investor buyer credit from out of my commission, so that they could then turn around. They bought down some of their points, which allowed them to bump their offer up a little bit, because I knew we had to go in with higher than asking to be able for them to even come close to having an opportunity. And that did make a difference. So that was another tactic.
Love that. That's awesome. Yeah, because hard money costs a lot of money. So I love that idea. Thank you for sharing. Good stuff. Anybody else before we wrap up? Cool. All right. We'll see you in June. Yeah. Wow. We'll see you in June, halfway through the year. Unreal. Steven. Oh, I saw you for a moment. It was good to
Thank you. Everything's so great. I appreciate it, as usual.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
You're welcome, man. And good to see your face.
Likewise.
All right, everybody. See you in a few weeks, and hit us up if you have any questions in our Facebook group. That's the best place to post questions so we can answer and let everybody else see it. The answers. All right. Peace.